Welcome to Cartography. That's Kip.
That's Rush.
And on today's episode, we're going to be driving around in this 2002 Mazda Speed 3.
It is a 2020 Mazda 3 hatch, preferred package. And honestly, I think it represents probably the best entry into this particular class of compact sedan. And this one actually it's unique because it's one of the only competitors in this segment that has all-wheel drive as an option.
Okay. So you said that all-wheel drive is an option. Is this an all-wheel drive car?
This is an all-wheel drive car, yes.
Is it, so the all-wheel drive system in this car, is it basically front-wheel drive and then it can send power to the rear, or is it always 50-50 like Subaru?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to. But what I can tell you is that this gets around in pretty heavy snow with ease.
What other cars did your girlfriend compare when she was looking at this car?
Yes, so basically she came directly from a Honda Civic that she didn't really care about. We went for this because it is a direct competitor to the Civic, but it does have all-wheel drive, and honestly, I think overall it is a better value for money. It's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is probably the most important thing. It's got, for basically any modern car, it's got memory seats, which is awesome because she is short and I am not short. So not having to adjust the seat, just push a button and it's ready to go is awesome. It's got keyless entry, keyless start. It has dual zone climate control, and it has the hottest heated seats I've ever experienced in my life. It's like a sauna, and I'm gonna put these on for you, and you're gonna be forced to sit in them until you beg me for mercy.
It's 83 degrees outside currently.
This car from the outside, I think, is really attractive. It's got nice clean lines. There's very few creases, which is kind of makes it stand out in its segment. The other big thing is that the interior in this car is far and away better than its competitors. It's a very clean, straightforward design. It's got, the digital gauge cluster. It's got a nice big central screen. And what I really love about that is that it is not a touch screen.
God damn, you're wordy. And I'm also turning this off. My goodness.
It's hot.
This is very hot.
I told you, this is the hottest.
Confirm.
It's literally like being in the hottest hot tub you've ever been in.
So can you get this car in a manual?
You can get this in a manual, but only the two-wheel drive version, which is kind of unfortunate. It would have been awesome if you could have gotten this in a stick with the all-wheel drive, because that would have made it really unique. This has a traditional automatic, which in a world of CVTs, an actual automatic is so much better than a CVT. It really is.
I agree, yeah. Now, you said that the two-wheel drive version you can get in a manual.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a front-wheel drive or a rear-wheel drive?
It's front-wheel drive.
So your options are front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive?
Or all-wheel drive, yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But you kind of get everything in this car. It's also got adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, collision braking, all that stuff that you need if you're a bad driver.
How do you know when your service is due in this car?
It gives you a little light, and it goes by mileage or by time. So we've put not that many miles on it, and now it's telling us that we need a service.
If you tuned it, how much horsepower can you get this thing to?
I have nobody's tuning these. Why would you do that? You could just buy it with a turbo already. One of the most important things I think about Mazda in particular as a company, and I think a lot of people are really not paying them as much attention as they deserve, is that Mazda makes cars that are good to drive, even if they're not setting out to make a driver's car. So obviously with the Miata, they have, one of the best entry driver's cars you can get, but all of their other offerings are pleasant to drive, which is not true for most economy cars,
I've actually noticed, I actually agree with that. So with all the Mazdas I've driven, my girlfriend drives a CX-5, and it's the same thing. Whenever I drive her car, it is surprisingly fun to drive. In terms of steering feel, it's not terrible. In terms of the suspension, actually, I was surprised that the CX-5 is actually a little bit sportier.
Yeah, it is.
Is this a little bit firm on the firm side as well?
It is, and that's pretty common amongst Mazdas. Is there's that trade-off. They do handle pretty well. They've got lots of grip. They've got lots of feel. They got very controlled, their body movements. But you get that because they've got a little bit stiffer suspension. They have pretty low profile tires. So the ride is a little on the harsh side, I would say, which is going to be a trade-off if all you care about is getting from A to B more as comfortably as possible. then this might not necessarily be the best choice. But if you want to actually, you know, enjoy being behind the wheel of a vehicle, and you're looking for a cheap compact car, I don't see how you beat this.
I feel like for anyone who's probably looking at a car in this segment, a couple of things that are probably going to be important is how comfortable is the back seat, because they're probably going to be they're probably hauling more people than just me.
Well, here's the thing is that I think that it's kind of refreshingly compact in the regards that the back seat isn't enormous. You get in a modern Civic is as big as an Accord used to be. And now the Accord is basically a limousine. They're enormous, right? So if you want a true compact car that is most of the time going to be transporting 1 or 2 people, which most people are doing, or children, there's plenty of room. If you were going to be Ubering people around, or if you were always the designated driver for your adult friends, it's not going to cut it. Realistically, I think people need to ask themselves, how is this car being used 95% of the time? And I would say most people, you're commuting to and from work most of the time. There's one person in the car.
I will tell you, as a former Uber driver, I have 3 people in the car 95% of the time.
Yes, exactly. And
is this a good car for Uber?
It's not.
On the racetrack, can someone who's 6'3" wear a helmet back there?
No. Why would somebody on a racetrack need a helmet in the backseat? Why?
Navigating.
It's got blind spot monitors, which is nice, again, if you're a bad driver. And that is another, actually, downside of this, especially in the hatchbacks. The blind spots are pretty noticeable because those kind of bigger C-pillars.
There you go. I think as far as like interior space, it's actually a pretty comfortable interior. It feels pretty spacious here in the front. There's 2 things that I'm not a big fan of that I see. One, I hate piano gloss black. Like, you know, because it just smudges so easily.
It does.
And there's a lot of that in here, it seems
Mhm.
like. But I feel like, I don't know, is there any car in the segment that doesn't have that you know of?
No, not really. And if it's not piano black, it's something that looks worse and feels cheaper. Yeah.
But a lot of modern cars are doing this where they just like stick a screen into the dash. I'm not a big fan of that.
And most importantly, it is not a touch screen. I hate touch screens. They're terrible. They're not easy to use. They don't give you more features. They're just basically a distraction. So this one you can control with this little wheel down here.
In terms of cup holders, how many cup holders do we have in here?
Plenty.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything particular that you don't like about this car? Anything that another car in the segment has that this car doesn't have that you think you wish it did?
I wish it rode slightly more comfortable.
Okay.
It's still got a torsion beam suspension in the rear, which I think makes it a little bit more jiggly than it needs to be.
So you mentioned this is a hatch. Do these seats fold flush or do they come up at an angle?
They fold almost all the way flat. There's enough room back there that if you wanted to camp in this thing, you could roll out a couple sleeping bags pretty easily and sleep pretty comfortably. But it does feel a step above the rest of the competition in terms of luxury, I think.
Well, you'd mentioned all the different cars in the segment, but you left one out that I would take over this, and that's going to be a Golf. You know, you can get into a GTI for not much more than this, and I would just go with that. How do you respond?
And so the Golf is awesome. The Golf is also really nice for what it is. The downsides of the Golf is that Volkswagens don't have quite the same level of reliability that their Japanese counterparts have.
So there you have it. If you are looking for a car that's going to be comfortable, practical, and fun to drive, you should consider this car or go buy a Golf. That's Kip.
That's Rush.
And we'll see you next time.